Kuzampo, this is Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program. My name is Bhutan. Our top stories this week: Economic Contingency Plan Series 2 to focus on manufacturing sector and hotel industry. Assessment for classes pre-primary to 9 and 11 to be based on 3 strategies. And Mangdeshu Hydroelectric Project Authority exports power worth almost 11 billion nitum since its commissioning. As the country moves forward in the fight against COVID-19, the Economic Contingency Plan Series 2 will focus on the manufacturing sector and hotel industry. The Prime Minister shared this while meeting with ministers and executives on Thursday. The Economic Contingency Plan Series 1 focused on tourism, construction and agriculture, where it executed immediate coping measures and initiated reforms and changes that triggered positive outcomes.
실기 레림디나로 따실 오민 디날라파 땡아기 버치 롱이 숨치날리 따실기 공기 총대 람베 원이 좀메 통메라 COVID-19 기 교디 주두달로 땡원이 온라얀 주탐 쟁아 자가고 아니베 원이 온 순디비 아타 좀메 봄닝 숨수베 원이라디 규라 온 순디비 날바 롱이 숨치 데 롱이 숨치 따실 모마 야소바친 땡아치르 두비 미긴 같이 사카나 뒤니기랑 쇼미라 다니보다 공기 사카디 가디비 좋은가 하세 중기 공기 남자니 또 차로 가디베 베고가 하세기 The
Prime Minister also shared his concerns on the unemployment pressure because of the pandemic.
다리기 내땅 나디 유 고미기 민곰 장칼리 숨답 야제야시라 유기 고갑 숨답 마포비야시 이스슈니빈다 다니 잠 게지기 내땅 나로 게지기 내순나로 데나부이 가dim제 켄라 If this trend continues, workspace will shrink by 10% sayula.
The Prime Minister urged youth to take up opportunities at the Build Bhutan project. Build Bhutan project is one of the key components of the Economic Contingency Plan Series 1 to address unemployment and layoffs by filling the gap in the construction sector amid the coronavirus pandemic. In addition, the Prime Minister shared that should there be any community transmission, the country is ready with effective surveillance and preparedness measures in place. Sunampem for BBS News.
The National Corruption Barometer Report 2020 finds the executives as the most corrupt officials. The Bhutan Transparency Initiative, in collaboration with the Anti-Corruption Commission, released the report recently. It is one of the key initiatives to determine the level and trend of corruption and the effectiveness of anti-corruption programs in the country.
As per the report, corruption is predominantly concentrated at the executive level of all organizations. Comparatively, the respondents perceive it is more prevalent among executives of corporations followed by government agencies. Of over 1,100 individuals surveyed from all sections of the Bhutanese society, 3.1% feel all business executives are involved in corruption. The perception could possibly relate to the report's finding of trading in influence as the predominant form of corruption in the country. Trading in influence or influence peddling means exchanging of influence by a person with real or apparent influence on the decision-making to obtain an advantage. Failure to declare conflict of interest, abuse of function, bribery and embezzlement are other common forms of corruption happening frequently in the country. And these corruptions are most rampant in government ministries among the key service providers. The corporations come in second. As per the report, more than 72% of the respondents cited insatiable wants followed by low moral values as the main causes of corruption in Bhutan. Likewise, over 31% of them mentioned that cases of corruption increased in the last 3 years. Bhutan is currently ranked 25th out of the 180 countries in the Corruption Perceptions Index. This is Pasang Doji for BBS News.
The World Health Organization recently confirmed of emerging evidence of possible airborne transmission of the novel coronavirus. But this, according to the Health Ministry's Technical Advisory Group for COVID-19, does not mean the virus is moving freely in the air. For now, the expert group advises people not to panic but take additional precautionary measures.
In addition to the existing precautionary measures, people are asked to ensure proper ventilation in closed settings and drink filtered or boiled water. According to the Health Ministry, alongside the development of the disease, these measures were not considered in the past.
Say example, now we have opened the schools. Now they should have they should keep their classrooms, open their window doors while teaching. And then other than that, we can see we just have to request them to strengthen whatever we have established. Say example, to keep the physical distance, hand washing should be strengthened.
According to the World Health Organization, airborne transmission can occur during medical procedures generating aerosols.
WHO has maintained that aerosol transmission by aerosol, it can happen in the hospital setting, healthcare setting, where in the ICU, where a patient is ventilated, where a lot of procedures take place, a lot of suctioning, when there's a lot of secretion in the patient's throat, we have to suction, which is a lot of pressure is generated. In that situation, aerosol generation can happen and airborne transmission can happen in the ICU setting.
Dr. Soki explained aerosols, when compared to droplets, are smaller, can travel further and floats in the air for some hours.
This aerosol especially is highly risky when you are in a closed environment, especially a small room without ventilation, and then if you are without wearing masks in front of a sick person, if you don't keep a distance of now we have been promoting as 1 meter, at least 1 meter, but we were not wrong. We said at least 1 meter. So now we would, I think we would have to go and say at least 2 meters, because aerosols they travel at least up to 2 meters or more.
According to a WHO report, the organization, together with the scientific community, continues to discuss and evaluate the possibility of airborne transmission in indoor settings with poor ventilation. Stringzam, BBS News.
The number of traffic violators in the country decreased drastically in the past few months. The Road Safety and Transport Authority attributes this to the closure of entertainment spots and early closure of bars and shops in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the RSTA, accidents and traffic violations reduced by almost half when compared to that before the pandemic.
Nightclubs, pubs, gaming spots and other places of gatherings led to many cases of drink driving before the pandemic. Of around 180 offenders in a month before the pandemic, the numbers have now decreased to around 120 in a month.
We feel that the number of offenders decreased because of the early closure of bars, dayangs, hotels and other entertainment hubs. That is why, even if the people want to roam around, they don't have these facilities. There are security personnel in areas such as Buddha Point, Sangyegang and above Yangchefu High School. There is no time, opportunity and the place. That is why I think people are now getting used to the new environment.
According to the RSTA, Thimphu still remains the region with the highest number of traffic violations, with over 700 cases so far this year. Of this, 312 cases were recorded in January and February, while the remaining 403 cases took place in the rest of the months. The RSTA, in partnership with Traffic Police, are also conducting drug and alcohol tests and screenings at various key areas such as Tamchu, Khasadrapchu and in town areas. This is Ringdandu, BBS News.
6 men are under police custody for a series of Phlaga and Chute vandalism cases in Paro, Thimphu and Ha. The suspects, aged between 22 and 28 years, were all arrested earlier this week from Doga Gyeok in Paro.
As per the RBP's preliminary investigation, all 6 men involved in the burglary and vandalism cases are from Dogar Gyeok in Paro. The investigation revealed that the suspects initially burgled the Dolekha Lhaka under Doga Gyeok on 13th March. They stole religious artifacts such as symbols, butter lamps, ritual dagger, and religious horns. Of this, police could only recover 3 symbols, a pair of religious horns, and 2 butter lamps. The suspects then robbed Tseto Gyemba under Lamgo Gyeok in Poro on 2nd April and stole 3 statues and a go. All 3 statues and the go were successfully recovered. Likewise, the suspects also vandalized a chute at Genekha, Thimphu on 27th May and stole a 6-inch copper statue. The report also states that the suspects went on to burgle Dolekha Lhaka yet again on 27th June. This time, they desecrated and dismembered several life-sized statues in the Lhaka. Besides that, the suspects also stole 2 Buddha statues which were installed as Zung inside the life-size statues of Tempa and Guru statues. Similarly, the suspects also burgled the Sanri Lhaka in Ha. They stole 2 dojis and 3 prayer bells from the Lhaka. However, 3 prayer bells were recovered successfully by the police. As per the investigation report, one of the suspects also confessed to larceny at Tashidenka Lhaka in Doga Gyeok, where he stole a pair of cymbal and a container from the Lum's residence. All stolen items were recovered. The report also states that the suspects vandalized a chute at Futugyemba in Poro as well. However, they did not find any valuables inside the chute. Despite recovering most of the stolen items from the suspects, police are yet to recover 3 statues and 3 pieces of symbol. The case is still under investigation. This is Pasam Doji for BBS News.
As assessment for classes pre-primary to 9 and 11 begins from this month, it will be based on 3 strategies the Royal Education Council prepared. The options are based on students' accessibility to various e-learning platforms and the geographical scenario. It will facilitate a smooth promotion and certificate for progression of students to higher grades this academic year.
One of the strategies teachers and schools can use is based on BBS TV broadcast lessons, where there will be a few questions at the end of every video lessons for students to respond. The teachers are then expected to correct them and maintain records.
Other options is in case those schools which are far away and the modern amenities are not available and not accessible. In such situation, we have been proposing for mobile teacher visiting the villages and gathering, teaching small groups of children, and at the same time conducting objective type of class test and then maintain record. Third option that we are looking for, and what we agreed, is through assignments.
Depending on the situation, respective schools can use any of the options to keep students engaged, maintain the momentum of learning, and assess them for a higher promotion. For classes PP to 6 with no formal examinations, the schools will use the adapted curriculum and assess students based on the strategies the REC has prepared. And for classes 7 to 9 and 11, there will be no formal examinations as long as the adapted curriculum is followed. But if schools reopen for the grades within July, depending on the directive of the government and the Education Ministry, the prioritized curriculum will come into being with formal examinations.
If reopening schools classes 7 to 9 and 11 is delayed beyond August, I do not see the good purpose of going for prioritized curriculum sessional because of the very limited time. And I would anticipate that adapted curriculum will be followed by these classes till to the end of the year, say, Shunila.
Meanwhile, the board examinations will begin with practical examination from mid of November, followed by the theory exam. The question paper patterns and duration of the papers will remain the same. To minimize movement of teachers, respective subject teachers will validate the project works and oral tests instead of the examiners. The marks will be submitted to the Big C online. Similarly, for classes 10 and 12, schools will grade the socially useful productive work or SUPW based on the previous year's record. However, there will be no SUPW grading for classes 7 to 9 and 11. At the same time, students following the adapted curriculum will not be ranked in their progress report this academic year. Sunampem for BBS News.
Like many business establishments, the coronavirus pandemic hit the online businesses in the country as well. Bruxelles, the country's largest impact market for products made in Bhutan, saw a sharp decline in its online orders as several countries went into lockdown. On the other hand, the pandemic somehow encouraged people to use the government's online public services, with the G2C online services recording a considerable increase in the number of users last month. Bruxelles, an online-based market, ships Bhutanese products to more than 30 countries worldwide. When business is uninterrupted, it delivers around 4,000 to 5,000 Bhutan-made packages in a month. But today, since the country's first case of coronavirus reported in March, the sales dropped to 500 and even lower.
In terms of our income, probably 90% we are down in terms of our profit margins. So India got into lockdown. What happened was all our products that goes to other countries goes through mainly through air cargo, and those shipments got locked up, and we were all operations stalled at some point. The customer demands were even soaring, but we were not able to sort of work out a solution for that. So hence what we did was we worked out with some of our local courier agents, operators, for example Bhutan Post, which is one of our key partners for shipping outside. They were not able to support us in terms of shipping because of the flight unavailability.
With the pandemic showing no signs of slowing down, Bruxelles says its future plan of opening stores outside Bhutan could get delayed. Similarly, business is down for an online shopping store, Dukpees. It buys and sells products from Bhutan and also delivers orders placed online from stores in India. The business entity saw about 65 to 70% decrease in online orders.
The salary decrease the hemabajin salary level monthly be the top the daily allowance daily be the top the niki buildalu ngachi staff teacher shift na be anjamdo da achi anigi akaki asingachi staff teacher.
On the flip side, the government's online public service delivery such as G2C is seeing an increased number of users after March. The number of online transactions for 8 agencies spiraled up to almost 11,000 in June, an increase by almost 3-fold as compared to the previous month. The Road Safety and Transport Authority and the Department of Cottage and Small Industry are among the few agencies recording the most number of clients using the online service. The G2C office attributes this surge in the number of users to government's directives to avoid crowds amid the pandemic.
Datugi ngachigi thoda suta wachinla mahasuchi domgi dashagi dausum dechinalu total number of transaction tawachin tota lapchu lapchidula. The successful transaction tawachin 22,000 dechidula. The in terms of percentage nalu phabya tawachin halam 50% dechi chamchidula success rate. The anjum ga ara issues kangil ganyami ba be becho bachin halam achigi 70-80% dechi successful rate bachin la domgi halam tiruguchi phabya juwachin la halam.
Meanwhile, the Office of Public Service Delivery is working way forward along with various stakeholders to resolve issues related to online payment system to keep the upward trajectory in number of online users afloat. Pupkiem for BBS News. As the COVID-19 pandemic leads to scarcity of laborers across the board, the Ondifoda Zong reconstruction project is no exception. Yet against this challenge, the project office remains optimistic and equally focused on completing the work before the set deadline. With limited workforce, a strategy adopted to achieve the progress is extending the working hours. As of now, 76% of the reconstruction is complete.
Today, the works are concentrated in the last phase of the second courtyard, where constructions of Rabde Hostel and Dukang are ongoing. According to project officials, the working hours accelerated in anticipation of the pandemic's likely impact on the project's overall progress. They are gearing to have the Zong restored to its former glory before the target year 2022.
Chitangi ngachirna zambalina yi the niji COVID-19 some nigi yi te na ngache toto sensedi ngache ta ngache gi na labe mi misilu thokane ma hosinila te ta indra besachiru te nilepapu nigi thopop tenni aso wachin lagi dudelu namesame thopom senodi te ngache terena ba namesame la tsage ma yuse shunila ta ngache gi chitangi nimchigi lagi benediga chise game ta nilel habbe talo khonlu te asiri te gandari ringing atarate tanga chegi khonlo te la thep chindibe te nisola beni gutuchi seshunila.
He added, the project is gradually losing workers due to low daily wage rates. From around 300 last year, the workforce strength dropped to 250 this year. People are moving to private construction sites where the rates are attractive due to lack of foreign workers, a situation the COVID-19 pandemic created. Today, a laborer at the project is paid in between 215 and 486 ngitam per day.
Na hile tanga che juyupsu la ya sen be shile te tapshika gergi nalafa labi miso te jungi asen mal ni so te kere yaru gergi beni yasen jome ani beni di ngachigi jungi legul di ngachiri to lade jungi dan sabbe beni ngachi departmental execution bela bala ani beni gi te ni na miso la chumale te legira kongi ta
To this end, the project office submitted a detailed report to the Home Ministry, which was forwarded to the Cabinet. Specifically, it mentioned of wage rate revision for skilled workers since the project is executed manually. The response from the Cabinet is expected soon.
te daran su sinila te tanga che contact na do chi beba chindi ta to jindale sa do chi dinja gebje do la te to ran le sa di beba chindi te tong cha ga la ba chi me do la te ani be do lu khepar chi ka chi so chindi nga china or dis na la no ne di la te ta asika ni nam sme kan ni tun me sa sinila aluma te ka chum no go sabji no go te ta sabji I
get only 250 Newton per day, and with that, it is difficult to sustain my family. Moreover, the prices of commodities are increasing. We continue to work here because I heard the government is considering the revision of our wage rate.
Amid the labor shortage, the project officials say the work quality will not be hampered. It could, however, impact the project's timely completion to some extent. Moreover, accepting volunteers to work at the site is discouraged due to the pandemic situation. As of now, from the 1 billion allocated budget for the reconstruction works, 716 million item is exhausted. Vachanga Doji in Wandifotong, Samten Dolker, BBS News.
Trucks carrying raw materials for industries in Pasakha will no longer go through the Finsiling Gate to enter the country. An alternative route opened on Wednesday at Alay in Pasakha, where the Line Customs station is to be constructed.
This new route will be a temporary one for trucks carrying consignments for the industries at Pasakha. While empty trucks going out can also use this route, those going out with goods from industries will have to follow the same route from Phuentsholing. The new route is expected to ease traffic congestion while also reducing the travel distance.
It
is almost 21 kilometers long when the trucks come through the Phuentsholing gate via Rinchending. And then when these trucks break down along the highway, it creates traffic jams and several other problems. Allowing trucks from the new route will solve these issues. Governments from both countries worked on it and came up with this temporary measure. The raw materials coming in will come through this route, while the export will have to go through Phuentsholing only.
In a statement by the Indian ambassador to Bhutan, Ruchira Kamboj said, Bhutan is India's closest partner and friends, and given the excellent bilateral relationship between the two countries and keeping in view as well the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic situation, this access to LA should further facilitate trade and commerce between the two countries. Usually, over 200 trucks enter Pasakha every day. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, now only about 80 trucks come in daily. Additional structures for the relevant stakeholders were also put in place at the new entry gate. For Sonam Penjo in Phuentsholing, Sangishizo for BBS News.
The 720 megawatt Mangdeshu Hydropower Project Authority in Tongsa exported power worth close to 11 billion ngutum from June last year till 13th July this year. Its annual projection was 12 billion ngutum. It received 3.89 billion ngutum so far. Of this, 3.45 billion ngutum was transferred to the Finance Ministry, and the rest is used for the operational cost of the project.
The project's 4 power generating machines altogether harnessed about 2.7 billion units of electricity in a year. The tariff agreed between the two governments is 4.12 Nyatam per unit, which is the highest so far. Unit 3 and Unit 4 still have a month to complete its 1 year, as the commercial operation took place later. Meanwhile, a certain energy is lost in the process of transmission of electricity from Mangdeshu to Jigmeling End and Alipurduar.
Generally, as per the norms, the highest acceptable limit is 2%, but on average, when we are exporting over a period of 1 year, starting from last June to the present 2020 June, the average transmission loss getting accounted is 1.3 to 1.5%.
The project is generating more energy during peak season, which starts in June and ends in September. However, during the leanest season, the power generation drops to even 90 megawatts.
Till date, we had some teething problems, as everybody knows that. And now we have all the 4 units on system, and today we have 791.8 megawatt generating its 720 capacity plus 10% extra generation. So I think the project is now fully satisfactory and functioning as expected by the Royal Government of Bhutan and the Government of India.
The Government of India provided financial support with 70% loan and 30% as a grant. It is expected to take 15 years for the project to clear its loan. For Pasa in Tongsa, Kilidim, BBS News.
That's all we have for you for this week. Thank you for watching.